CC told Stephanie White to sit Kelsey, Mitchell, and Howard because they don't pass. Could be true. CC went to tie her shoe after passing to Howard on a play. LOL.
The word on the street is CC told Stephanie White to sit Kelsey, Mitchell, and Howard because they don't pass. So for weeks, the entire narrative around the Indiana Fever has been focused on one thing: the philosophical clash between a generational superstar and a coach with a rigid system. The story has been simple: Caitlin Clark versus Stephanie White. But what if that's not the real story? What if the coach is just a convenient scapegoat for a much deeper, more toxic problem brewing behind the scenes? Welcome back, narrative analysts. I'm your host, Jax, and today we're filtering out the noise. Because the information coming to light from inside the Fever locker room points to something far more personal than a tactical disagreement. This isn't just about a coach's philosophy. This is about a locker room civil war. A new report, backed by on-court evidence that we're about to break down, exposes a powerful clique of veteran players who are not just failing to support Caitlin Clark. They may be actively trying to force her out of Indiana for good. The title of this video isn't clickbait. It's a conclusion based on connecting the dots that the mainstream coverage has missed. The whispers have become too loud to ignore, and the on-court moments are starting to look less like miscues and more like deliberate sabotage. Many of you watching have been flagging these moments for weeks, and you were onto something big. If you want to see more deep dives that respect your intelligence and connect the dots on the stories behind the game, do me a solid and smash that like button. It shows us we're on the right track. Point for this entire meltdown, the moment this Cold War turned hot, was during halftime of the Fever's game against the Atlanta Dream on July 11th. While the cameras were off, multiple courtside witnesses reported a heated exchange that went far beyond strategy. The rumor, which has now ripped through the WNBA underground, is that a furious Caitlin Clark confronted Stephanie White directly. But this wasn't about plays or rotations. She allegedly demanded that two specific veteran players, Kelsey Mitchell and Natasha Howard, be benched for the second half. The reason she gave was brutally simple: they don't pass her the ball. This wasn't just a moment of frustration. This was a declaration. And when you look at what happened next, it becomes clear this was the first shot fired in a battle for the soul of the franchise. Now, a confrontation like that doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's a symptom of a fracture, a deep split that has essentially divided the Indiana Fever locker room into two distinct camps. To understand what's really happening, you have to understand the factions at play. Let's call it what it is: the old guard versus the new guard. On one side, you have the new guard, led by Caitlin Clark and her 2023 Rookie of the Year running mate, Aliyah Boston. This is the future of the franchise. They represent a faster, Clark-centric style of play that the front office supposedly wanted when they made the change from their last coach. They are the duo the entire league's marketing is built around. They are the reason every Fever game is now primetime television. And on the other side, that's the old guard. According to widespread fan speculation and viral video analysis, this faction is centered around veteran players like high-volume shooter Kelsey Mitchell and veteran forward Natasha Howard. These are players who were established in their roles long before the Caitlin Clark effect swept through Indiana. And the core of this entire civil war is their reported resistance to falling in line.
And it is clear that there is a philosophical rift in the team.
The evidence for this isn't just whispers. It's visible on the court for anyone willing to watch closely. Fans have been creating entire compilations of viral clips showcasing what they call the freeze-out. You can see plays where Clark is open on the wing, calling for the ball, only for a teammate to engage in a late-clock isolation instead. We've all seen the clips of Natasha Howard. Instead of spacing the floor to create a driving lane for Clark, diving into the paint, bringing her defender right into the action, and killing. The play before.
I don't even understand the spacing of the offense. I'm watching Caitlin Clark drive down the right side of the lane, and Natasha Howard, rather than spacing the floor and stand in the corner, she's diving to the basket, bringing a defender to Caitlin. It's just, bro, the offense is just trash. I got to be honest with you.
When these things happen once or twice, it's a mistake. When it happens game after game, it's a pattern. And when it's a pattern that directly benefits the usage rates of the old guard at the expense of the team's superstar, you have to start asking harder questions. This isn't just bad basketball. It looks like a deliberate refusal to adapt to the new hierarchy. The question we have to answer now is, why? Is this just about basketball philosophy? Or is there a darker, more personal motive at play? To really understand the why behind this civil war, you have to look at it on two different levels. There's the professional reason, the on-court, basketball philosophy. And then there's the much more personal and, frankly, more toxic reason that's simmering just beneath the surface. Let's start with the basketball. The old guard, players like Mitchell and Howard, were key figures in an offense under the previous coach, Christie Sides. That offense got them to the playoffs. But what happened after that? The front office fired Sides. And according to widespread rumors, the reason was that the front office felt she couldn't maximize Clark. Think about that. The front office sent a clear message to the entire organization. This is Caitlin Clark's team now. The primary objective is to build everything around her. But for players used to a certain number of shots and a certain role, that mandate can sound a lot like a demotion. They are being asked to change their game to fit a superstar, and their resistance is making the on-court product incredibly difficult to watch.
But what I will say with Stephanie White is just that I hate this offense. I do not like the Indiana Fever's offense this season. It's hard to watch. And I feel like Stephanie White is bringing what she was doing with the Connecticut Sun over here.
But the story doesn't end there, because the on-court friction is likely a symptom of a much deeper, off-court resentment. We have to talk about the money and the fame. The CC effect is real. Clark's arrival brought charter jets, sold-out arenas, national TV slots, and massive sponsorship opportunities to the Fever. But that spotlight, and the money that comes with it, is not being distributed equally. And this is where we have to venture into what our research file calls social speculation. But it's a theory that connects all the dots. There is a strong belief among insiders and fans that a major driver of this internal conflict is pure professional jealousy. The file notes that sponsorship envy and unequal media attention are considered key factors in the locker room tension. Think about it from their perspective. You're a professional athlete who has been grinding in the league for years, and suddenly a rookie comes in and is getting more media attention and more lucrative deals than the rest of the team combined. From a human perspective, you can understand the resentment. But when that resentment starts to manifest as on-court sabotage, it becomes a threat to the entire franchise. So, what do you think is the bigger driver here? Is this a legitimate basketball dispute about strategy? Or is this about off-court jealousy boiling over? Let me know your theory in the comments below. This brings us to the most complicated figure in this entire mess. The head coach, Stephanie White. Because she isn't just an innocent bystander, she might be the one giving the old guard the philosophical cover. They need to get away with it. So if you have a veteran clique resentful of a new superstar, how does their rebellion play out on the court without immediate consequences? It happens when the head coach's own philosophy gives them the perfect cover story. This is where Stephanie White's role becomes so critical. She isn't necessarily the one directing the sabotage, but her system is the very thing that enables it.
She don't know what she's doing. She's holding Caitlin Clark back. She don't know what to do with her.
To understand this, we have to go back to a now infamous moment from 2024, when Stephanie White was working as a broadcaster for ESPN. She was calling a Dallas Mavericks game where their superstar, Luka Dončić, was out with an injury. And the way she described the Mavericks' offense without him sent shockwaves through the basketball world once she was hired by Indiana.
Stephanie White, you deserve the Dodo Bird of the Day award.
Now, let's analyze that as investigators. On the surface, it's a comment about ball movement. But if you are a veteran player in the Fever locker room, and you're already feeling resentful of the new superstar who dominates the ball, what do you hear? You hear your new head coach on a national broadcast expressing excitement that a team is playing better without its generational ball-dominant talent. You don't hear a nuanced tactical point. You hear a green light. You hear permission. That single comment provides the philosophical justification for every time a veteran decides to ignore an open Caitlin Clark and take the ball themselves. They can claim they're just playing within the coach's desired system of everyone touches the ball, and the ball is popping. White's public philosophy, whether she intended it or not, has become the perfect weapon for the old guard to use in their Cold War against the new guard. It allows them to mask their potential resentment as simply following the coach's orders. This dynamic puts the front office in an absolutely impossible position. This leads us to the Indiana Fever front office, which now finds itself in a strategic nightmare of its own making. Let's just lay out the timeline, because it reveals a massive contradiction. In 2024, the front office, led by President Kelly Krauskopf, fired coach Christie Sides. They did this after a 2020 season that ended in a playoff berth. The publicly stated reason was a desire to become a title contender. But the rumor reported by multiple outlets was that they didn't believe Sides could properly maximize Caitlin Clark's singular talent. So, mandate number one was clear. This franchise revolves around Caitlin Clark. Then they hired Stephanie White, a coach who, as we've discussed, has a public philosophy that favors multiple ball handlers and a system that de-emphasizes a single heliocentric star. A coach whose last major tenure at Vanderbilt ended with a dismal 46-83 record and a mass exodus of players, with critics pointing to her system purity as the reason for the collapse. They replaced a coach they felt couldn't elevate their star with a coach whose entire history suggests she doesn't want to. The front office has, in effect, set a policy that their own head coach's philosophy seems designed to undermine. They've created the perfect storm: a locker room with a resentful veteran clique, a coach whose system gives that clique cover, and a superstar who is being systematically frozen out of the offense. And caught right in the middle of this crossfire is the other pillar of the Fever's future, Aliyah Boston. The 2023 Rookie of the Year, a dominant force in her own right, is Clark's natural on-court partner. But imagine the pressure she's under. She's a young player trying to build chemistry with her point guard. But to do so, she has to navigate a political minefield. Every time she aligns with Clark, she risks further alienating the veteran faction. Every time she tries to keep the peace, she risks being seen as not supporting her superstar teammate. This isn't just a two-player problem. This civil war is poisoning the entire foundation of the team they're supposed to be building. This internal rot couldn't be happening at a worse time. The Fever are scheduled to host the 2025 All-Star weekend. The league is planning to showcase its biggest star in her home arena. But what happens if the main event is a visibly unhappy star who is being marginalized by her own team? What happens when the story becomes the locker room dysfunction instead of the celebration of the sport. The stakes are getting higher every single day, which brings us to the end game. So where does this all lead? This isn't just about a slump or a few bad losses anymore. This is a battle for the future direction and control of the Indiana Fever franchise. The evidence points to a conclusion that is as shocking as it is logical. The actions of this veteran clique go beyond simple on-court frustration. When you connect the dots, from the alleged halftime demands, to the on-court freeze-outs, to the jealousy over sponsorships, all enabled by a coach with an anti-star philosophy, it paints a picture of a deliberate campaign. This isn't about getting more shots. It's about making the team's superstars so uncomfortable and so ineffective that a change becomes necessary. They aren't just trying to get Caitlin Clark to pass the ball more. They are trying to get her to pass through the exit door of the franchise. With league insiders already reporting that Fever executives fear losing Clark in free agency, this civil war isn't just a storyline. It's an existential threat. So, what's your take on all this? I want to know where the narrative analysts stand on this. Who wins this civil war for the soul of the Fever? Drop Clark in the comments if you think the front office has to back their superstar, or drop Clique if you think the veterans will successfully force a change. And if you believe the real story is never the one you get on the surface, and you appreciate deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We're always connecting the dots on the next big story. Finally, if you think other WNBA fans need to see what's really happening inside that Indiana locker room, share this video on social media or with a friend. Let's get this conversation started.